The only thing I enjoy more than rewatching Cheers is discovering Cheers footage that I had never seen before. Behind the scenes, bloopers, and in this case, the 1983 NBC All Star Hour. And this popped up on YouTube randomly for me. Obviously, I watch a lot of Cheers content on there, and I had never heard of this before. And I did try to find out some information so I could share some basic facts, but I can't find anything. There's not even an IMDb page for the 1983 one. Certainly, it's not on Shelley Long's, and I can't find it anywhere else. So if anybody has any background information on this, please feel free to share. Today I am just talking about the Cheers aspect, and I will, of course, link the YouTube video in the description. I am so thankful to the person who uploaded this because it is just an absolute joy. As I do with my Cheers reviews, I will go through everything that happens and share some thoughts. This probably won't be as detailed as my Cheers discussions. I won't go into as much detail. I'll just talk basically about what happens and share some thoughts along the way. But I can sum up by saying it's fabulous. It's tremendous fun. If you're a Cheers fan, you're going to want to watch this. So there will be spoilers from now, but if you don't want any spoilers, then of course, definitely check it out. Come back and let me know your thoughts. So this one starts off with actually scenes in Cheers, which I hadn't expected. When I saw this pop up, it was very clear that it was some kind of television special, and I didn't think there would be any scenes at the bar, but actually we do get some of that, which is just so fabulous. And we have Coach pointing out that this NBC special is about to come on television. So Coach, Norm and Cliff are watching this. We also have Sam, Diane and Carla. This is obviously very early on with Cheers. And Diane is then talking about this idea she has for a television show called Damsel in Despair. It's about the life of Emily Dickinson. And then Coach is distracted watching Kit the car on TV. And Diane then rests her head on her hand and she begins to dream. And then it transitions to Diane at the NBC special. Shelley Long looks absolutely amazing. Her dress is stunning, so sparkly. I absolutely love it. And we then get to see everybody else. The camera zooms out. We can see this little bar. And of course, we have Sam working there and Coach is there. Carla's there. Carla's wearing a traditional maid outfit. And Sam and Coach look really dapper in their outfits. And it's so beautiful. And I absolutely love it. And then we hear Diane say, "Something tells me I'm not in Boston anymore." And the special then continues, and I didn't time it. Maybe I should have done this, but we kind of have a couple of minutes with the cast of Cheers, and then a couple of minutes, maybe up to 5 minutes of some other aspect of the special. But then the Cheers elements weave in and out really organically. It's really well done, really well presented. If you're not a Cheers fan, and you were watching this in real time, there's still so much else going on there. But, and I will say that this is something that was also affecting me, if you're not a Cheers fan, you'll find those bits a bit dull maybe. But for the flip side, there were elements in this that didn't really mean anything to me. There were a couple of people the characters were interacting with, some of whom I will name and mention because I'm aware of them, but some of them I'm not familiar with. There were some interactions, particularly with Carla, where I wasn't really sure who she was talking to. So there will be things that meant nothing to me. And obviously, if you were watching this not as a Cheers fan, there would be things that didn't mean anything to you either. So I guess the point there is that I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I didn't necessarily pick up on every reference or every bit of comedy because I wasn't fully aware of the individuals or the TV shows the cast of Cheers were interacting with. If anybody has anything to add to that, if I don't mention something specific, it basically means I didn't know what was going on. So if you can add to that and maybe enhance my knowledge there, I would certainly really, really appreciate that. And as I said, the special continues. We occasionally cut back to the cast. Diane asks Carla what she's doing in her dream, to which Carla responds, "Working. I've got 4 kids to feed, even in your dream." And Diane and Sam then serve Pierce Brosnan, which was a lovely moment. And Diane is very Diane. She's troubling people for information about who she might be able to pitch her TV idea to. And then Sam puts his elbow in a meatball and Carla goes off to deliver some drinks. We then cut to Norm and Cliff. And Cliff is still dressed in a postal uniform, but it looks much smarter and fancier. The colour's much bolder. I thought his costume here was absolutely brilliant. Diane is then meant to be serving some customers, but she gets distracted. She describes her own idea as wonderfully intelligent, which is just incredibly believable. Norm then goes up to a bar stool, which feels more natural for the character rather than being on a table on the main floor, and he talks accounting with Bob Hope, and then Coach talks with Bob Hope, and Bob Hope turns to the camera and says, "There are places in that guy's brain where no man should go," which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then we cut to Carla, and then back to Diane, who is still going on about damsel in despair. And then Carla meets Bob Hope, and then Diane's attacked by this big blue bird's tail. I don't know who that character is or what the relevance there is. If anybody has any information, please feel free to share. And then it starts to feel a little bit more like Cheers, like an actual episode, when Diane approaches Coach. It's a really lovely moment, and it's lovely, but it's funny. She says, "Coach, can I ask you a question?" To which Coach responds, "Sure, Diane, anything else?" Obviously, because the question was a question. I don't need to explain it, but I rather enjoyed it. And then Coach tells a story, and a broom is involved, which was a little random. It also gave Sam some involvement there. Sam doesn't have that much to do here, but in a way that's very fitting, because while absolutely Sam has his own storylines in the show, he's very much the glue that holds everybody together, and often, certainly in later seasons, it's often about their lives and how Sam's kind of at the centre of it all. Well, I guess how the bar is at the centre of it, but Sam, even when things go in a strange direction, still always represents Cheers. But I'll say no more than that in case you haven't seen too far into the show. And then we have this lovely, beautiful moment between Sam and Diane, because everybody else tells Diane that she needs to change her idea. And she realises, fine, whatever, if this is the way to get my TV show made, I'm going to have to change it. And Sam approaches her just as she's about to go off and tells her that the Diane he knows wouldn't do this. And we have some comedy there, but it's also very beautiful, and such a really lovely moment. And then she gets her chance. She goes up to the Peacock. The floor is concealed by fog or mist, and it's really beautiful. It's really magical. And then, and I didn't understand the reference here, but I did Google it and was able to get some context. The Peacock chair turns around, and it's Karnak the Magnificent, who was apparently a recurring character played by Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. I didn't realise that to begin with. Thankfully, Google gave me some context there. But even though I had no information, I have no experience, no connection with the character, I still found it to be pretty entertaining. So that definitely works in the episode's favour. And he kind of steals her idea, but then says that the show will be starring Diane Chambers. And she gives the most beautiful smile, and it's an absolute joy. And then Diane wakes up, and we're back in Cheers for the last few minutes, and Diane says that she had this dream and everybody was there. And then the special that they were watching at the beginning is still on television, and they all turn around. And I love, it's not the first time, well, chronologically it might be, but occasionally in Cheers we will get a shot from that angle from the television, and we just have the whole main cast looking at the TV, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful image of everybody there, and they see Diane on the television, and it was just an absolute joy. I thoroughly enjoyed every second of this. It's stunning. The costumes are gorgeous. The characters felt very believable to their own characters. Maybe we could have had a little bit more with Sam. We didn't get much with him, but as I said, that kind of does also feel quite believable for a lot of the episodes. Again, there are many episodes that focus on Sam, but often other characters get their chance to shine, and Sam's kind of just the glue in the middle. And the story here, everything flowed well. Diane's idea for her Damsel in Despair TV show, and the characters were just so much fun. And Cliff's costume as well. I'd love to know where those costumes are now, if they got to keep them. Absolutely stunning. Diane's dress is so, so beautiful. If you're a Cheers fan and you haven't seen this, needless to say, it is absolutely worth watching. It would have been delightful even if we didn't have the scenes in Cheers at the beginning and end. But to have that extra footage, it's gorgeous. I'd also love to know who directed this. As I said, I currently cannot find any information about this online, and I'd love to know who directed this. I would assume it's James Burrows, at least the scenes at the bar. But if anybody can confirm or deny that, please let me know, and I will say no more. It's an absolute joy. If you're a Cheers fan, definitely check out the 1983 NBC All-Star Hour. As I said, I will link it in the description. I'd be quite happy to watch it again. I probably will. And for now, I'm certainly very, very happy to recommend it.